live, and now we should be live. Hello.
Hello.
It looks like we are in fact live, and or maybe not. Does it show up on your screen, Erica, that we are live?
Let me see.
There.
There we go.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay. Hallelujah. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to try and not drive myself crazy. I'm trying to get settings to be happy ones. I know, right? God, it is like the Jeopardy theme song. I need 2 different sound effects in my life. One is the Jeopardy theme song, and the other one is the girl from Ipanema. I need to have both of those for, when you're on hold and it's da 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 da. Oh God, I'm probably going to get dinged for that now. The YouTube.
What happened? Where'd you go? There you are. You're back. It's me, it's not you.
Everything is possessed.
You're there, and we have 3 people watching. I just can't see the chat.
Different set of speakers. Hang on.
Sorry, people. We know this is really, 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 really boring.
I know. It's really boring for us, too. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. I can't hear you through my... Anyway, whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
there's a YouTube algorithm that dings people randomly. So everything that I did for the Christmas specials got copyright infringement stuff written. And I had to fight all of it in fake legalese. So, but I have stuff to show.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Yay! Oh, I have to
describe for our home audience what you're displaying.
So I finished Sam's cuff, which is actually considerably longer than I'd expected it to be. It goes from my elbow to my wrist, and which I think is longer than it needed to be, but I thought that's not a bad thing either. And it wasn't very expensive yarn, so the color changes aren't particularly spectacular, but they are indeed color changes. And I did something on accident, and then I realized, no, actually, that's kind of a good thing. Is I missed a bobble, or one of the little extended bits of they're kind of like extended diamonds of color. As I was changing for the last go round, I missed one, so I have a long section of just black in the back. And I thought, that might not be such a bad thing, because where the IV is coming out, it's going to push out on the ribbing, and maybe she can have like a place where that's just what's going to happen. And so if it gets stretched out there, whatever.
So for those playing along at home, what this is a long tube, basically like a knee sock without a foot. And it's on my monitor anyway, it appears to be black with corrugated ribbing and lozenges of color change that's green and blues.
Yep.
That's how it looks on my monitor anyway.
These are the Sam likes ocean colors, and so that's what I had. And if it had been Noro or something probably more expensive, I would have had more subtle color changes. And I really do wish I had the ball band, but I have what's left of the ball itself. So for anybody who wasn't here the first week when I started working on this, the colors are pretty. And I think if I had just been using this with it goes from kind of a turquoise blue which is looking like a true blue on the monitors. I don't know if that's coming through or not, but it's a turquoisey and kind of a dark lime green. And then it goes into a dark kind of a khaki green, almost like a mustard green. Is there such a thing as mustard green? And then probably not. I don't know what that is. And then kind of a dark khaki green, like an army green. So they're interesting color changes, but they were, I'll show you where it was really odd. Like in one of the cuffs, actually one of the things that worked out nicely is that one cuff is green and black and the other cuff is blue and black. So that I was happy with. But you can see the color changes are just little blips of color in the ribbing where you get maybe 3 or 4 of the knit twos on the ribbing will have a color change and then nothing for 3 rounds. And then the same thing happened on the blue side where all of a sudden there's kind of a blip of this dark green in the middle of the blue. But it reminded me, as I was doing the blue part, it reminded me of the pewter shawl that you were working on last week, Erica, where where you had kind of it would be like a random stripe of color and then a random stripe of color. And I thought, well, then it's got to be okay, because if Erica had that happen.
Oh, well then.
Then it must be perfect. So I can now send this off to her for her birthday, only 2 weeks late. But she doesn't watch this, so I think it's going to be okay. It'll be a surprise. Yay! But I think from a distance, too, it looks kind of cool. It's like
from a distance.
Stained glass. That's what it's like. It's like, because of the black, it's like one of those stained glass cookies where you get the jelly in the middle. I will call it a stained glass cookie for Sam. So
there you go.
This was my finishuary, even though it was March, because I also finished the cowl.
This is the crochet.
This is the crochet cowl that has, this was the one that was done with the Red Heart yarn, just the really inexpensive yarn, but I think it came out looking great. This is Dawn's pattern where it was do a chain of 66 single chains around and join that chain and then work as a spiral and just keep working around, where you would chain one, single crochet one, chain one, single crochet one, chain one, all the way around. And then on the second round, anytime you hit one of the chain ones, you would do your single crochet into that space. And you can see very clearly now that I screwed up, because here's my original chain. So that's 66. And then if you flip it over, you can see what it looks like at 132.
Oops.
Yeah, because I did, instead of on the first round after the chains, I did single crochet, chain one, and then a single crochet into the next stitch instead of skipping it, which honestly, I'm kind of fine with, because it makes it nice and big and loose on one end and kind of Egyptian collar-y cowl. So it actually does go down over my shoulders, which is just kind of nice. I'm not going to complain. So design feature, not flaw.
Design, that's right. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
That's right. I'm happy with it. And actually, I don't get to wear it. Thing 2 has taken it, and the only reason I'm holding it is because he's at school right now. Otherwise,
it passed the prepubescent boy test.
You know, he has good fashion taste, and he also looks good in these colors. He's the one, I swear, I am not joking when I say I go to him, if Andrew and I are ever lucky enough to go out to dinner, I'll go to him and say, is this okay? Are the shoes, do they work? And he'll look at me and go, Mom. And he'll go pick something else out and bring it over and rescue me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He has good and expensive taste, so shopping with him is always an adventure. Cool. So what we were going to do spindles with Dawn, and and I thought we should just do 2 weeks of spindles. So we'll do what we've got today, because Dawn is sick, and the antibiotics that they've put her on are doing horrible things to her. And she said she's She's feeling so lousy that she actually thought if she got onto the Google Hangout with everybody, she would get us all sick. That's how vicious the thing is that she's got.
Oh dear.
I felt bad for her. But she's here in spirit, but she's also asleep. I hope, in bed.
Podcasting in her sleep.
Yes, that's right. So would you like to start with your
Sure. Well, first of all, we had talked about how I was getting a wheel spinning intervention.
That's right.
And I had that, and it went well, and I'm back on the horse. I'm quite pleased. I would show you, but I don't want to take the bobbin off the wheel. It was actually quite a comedy of errors because I forgot to bring the correct whorl with me.
Oh no.
And used the one that I had, which was really not right for me in the way I spin. And then, so we had to make a new drive band. And between the two of us, Miss Calendar and me, we must have tried 15 times and never,
Wow.
maybe kind of got the right length drive band. But we figured out what was going wrong. It was a lot of it was that my mother of all, which for people who don't have a wheel, you picture, okay, there's the wheelie part that goes around, and then there's the bobbin that the spun yarn is on.
What kind of wheel do you have?
It's a shacked matchless.
Okay, I'm going to pull up a picture of it, so you keep talking. Okay,
and on the above, on the top, I don't know why I'm gesturing. People at home, you can't see me, but the bobbin basically sticks out perpendicular from the sort of backbone of the wheel, and at the top of this backbone thing is a knob that you can turn that changes the angle of the bobbin, and mine was stuck. And so we got that unstuck, and things were much better, and I'm very happy. I'm not feeling stupid anymore. And
that's so hard.
So for those of you who are listening at home, if you look in the show notes, there will be a picture of what a shacked matchless looks like. And you'll see the little knobby thing on the top. And turning that knobby thing is supposed to change the angle of the bobbin. And mine was not doing that. It was just staying put. So once we got that working right, things were much, much better.
I didn't realize that thing would change the angle. I thought that would be to tighten or loosen the drive band. The height of the whorl.
In effect, it does.
But by tilting instead of
by raising and lowering one end of the bobbin.
Oh, I see what you mean.
That does tighten or loosen the drive band.
Got it.
See, I learned. So, okay, so the wheel spinning aside, that was my wheel spinning thing. So this was my most recent, I haven't touched it in a while, spindle spinning.
What kind of fiber is that?
This is I was not as organized today as normal, but it's from Bee Mice Elf, which is like the animal B-E-E, mice, M-I-C-E, and elf, E-L-F. And I actually got two braids of the same color, but in two different fibers accidentally.
Ooh.
But they're close enough that,
right.
That it's easier to see the colors looking at the fiber. So there's yellow and orange and brown, and then there's undyed bits. And it's a roving, and it's gorgeous, very Erica colors, fall colors. So I'm interested to see how it turns out, because a lot of times I find that I'll be attracted to a multicolored roving, and I think it looks gorgeous in the roving, in the braid. Mm-hmm. And then when it's made up, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So, because I tend not to like barber pulling.
Yeah.
If you're not a spinner, that's exactly what it sounds like. It looks like a candy cane.
Yeah.
2 different colors wrapped around each other like that. And I tend not to like that in the yarn. I may like the occasional marled sweater that's knit from that kind of yarn, but it's just not my thing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not me. So I tend more toward the tonal. So we shall see. But the singles on this are quite fine.
Wow. Now,
so
one of the things that I thought we should probably talk about too, because we've got a lot of spindles certainly between the 3 of us. Next week we will have more. How heavy? Do you know how heavy that one is? Because the spindle whirl, the spindle whirl on top looks big, but you're getting such a fine yarn. You're either using very grabby wool, or it's not as heavy as it looks.
You know what? I shall investigate, and I will report back next week. I'll weigh my spindle.
Look underneath. Sometimes they write the number in tiny little Sharpie, but they'll do it, tell the grams. Nothing.
No, that's not.
Do you remember who?
I don't know what that marking is. The mark of the maker or something, but that's it. But it's beautiful, and the spindle came from Spunky Eclectic. It was a Valentine gift a couple of years ago.
That's beautiful.
So
that's very, very pretty.
Very, very pleased. So that will end up becoming probably a 3-ply, since the singles are so small. We'll see, depending how much. But it's slow going. I'm not fast on the spindle, so I need to. I tend to spin in spurts. I'll do a lot for a while and then not touch it for ages. So I need to get back to it.
Yep.
But also spinning for me is sort of a reward when my work stuff I feel like it's caught up to a good point, then I allow myself the spinning time.
That's a good way to do it, because I'm not finding time to get to it as much.
And I did through my spinning intervention last week, some fiber came home with me. Imagine that. I wasn't even at a shop, and some fiber came home with me.
I'm shocked.
Thank you, Miss Erin. Miss Erin, it's Malabrigo Nube.
Oh, dang,
which means clouds. And this is greens and kind of a copper and yellowish. The greens go to almost black. And it's 4 ounces of 100% pure merino.
Lovely.
And the colorway that they're calling this one is Mostaza, Mostaza. And it's, because it's Malabrigo, it's gorgeous and it's soft, and hopefully I don't wreck it when I spin it.
Right.
So
that's how I always feel.
That's my spin. The spinning that I have on the wheel is just is actually also Malabrigo Nube, but undyed. So I will probably, once that's all spun up and plied and everything, I'll probably dye that myself. So
how do you dye when you dye? What do you use?
When I dye, I use some inexpensive acid dyes from Dharma Trading Company. And I have some dedicated pots, a dedicated crock pot and a dedicated spaghetti pot that I use at home, and try not to make too bad a mess. I think I finally have the red dye off my stove that I got on there the first time I tried to dye on the stove.
No.
So it's a lot of fun. It's playing. I take a dye class occasionally through my local park and rec, and it's a really good class, and it's actually easier for me to do the dyeing at class because they have more
Oh yeah.
stuff.
You don't have a white ceramic or porcelain stovetop, do you? What is it that you got?
Why, yes, I do. Why, yes, I do.
How did I know?
Just like I have a white sink.
Oh yeah.
So yes, I'm quite talented, let me tell you.
Yeah, we had
and I have a light colored floor also. So
oh no.
But the floor is so old that even when it's clean, it looks sturdy.
Yeah.
That's how old the linoleum is.
We're living in a place like that too. Although the sink is stainless steel and they put a new stove in before we moved in, so it's a black glass top. But black glass tops show everything.
Every fingerprint.
Yeah, it's never clean. No, it's never clean. But have you tried doing Kool Aid dyeing?
I tried that before. Definitely the acid dyes are better. At least in my mind, they stay better. And
yeah, I think for anything that's going to be washed more than several
right.
times in its lifetime, I think acid dyes, and for lighter weight stuff, the Kool Aid's just fine.
Right. But the Kool Aid method is fun for doing at home if you're not sure if this is something that you're going to do very often, and you want to use your regular pots and pans. You don't want to have dedicated stuff because Kool Aid is food. It is therefore food safe, so you're not ruining your pans. I have dedicated stuff for dyeing so that I don't kill my family.
Yeah. No, the Kool Aid. I used to do a Kool Aid class when I was teaching knitting and stuff in Tucson, and the other thing that I noticed about doing the Kool Aid dyeing was your yarn smelled really good when you were done, because it kind of had that fruity, the fruit flavored gum from your childhood. You're like, oh.
If you like that smell. If you don't like that smell, it's a problem.
It's a horror if you don't like that smell. But it's the other thing that I was surprised by is the range of color that you could get out of the Kool Aid packets. And there's a chart, I think, on Knitty from 2007.
Oh, from a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long one. And you can see there's a huge range of colors. And of course, terrifyingly, they are permanent if you use, you have to add acid. So you add vinegar initially. So you get the vinegar / fruit smell when you're doing the dyeing is kind of dicey.
And all the moms will hate me, but hey, teenagers, because your hair is animal fiber, just like wool is, Kool Aid will dye your hair.
That's
and
right.
It doesn't watch. It's just as permanent as hair dye.
Yep. Unless they don't use vinegar.
Unless they don't use vinegar, but if you use the vinegar, it's nice and permanent, and you could get some wacky colors. I'd imagine they don't work very well on dark hair. Best on light colored hair. Hence with my hair, not something I've ever tried because it would be pointless. But I have actually seen Kool Aid dyed hair before, and it's can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids here doing where they'll do sun in or something like that for one specific section over and over, and then one day it'll become purple with Kool Aid.
Fun.
It's something.
So that's my spindle stuff. My first spinning ever, I learned how to spin on a spindle. I didn't learn on a wheel. I learned on a spindle back in 2006, and I had scrupulously avoided spinning up until that time. And didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. And I spun a little, and I even got another spindle. My friend who taught me how to spin gave me a spindle. And I got another spindle, and I spun for a while, and then I didn't. And then I got back into it with the really nice spindle that I have now.
Right.
And then it was later that year that a very kind person bought me my wheel as a gift. So
that was a very kind person, because that's a great.
Very, very. So
we like that person a lot.
We yes, patron saint of cooperative press. So
he's a good man.
So yeah.
Well, I have a couple to show, but I've got to get them out first. The do you remember that book that came out years ago, the Twisted Sisters sock book?
Yes.
And then later there was the Twisted Sisters sweater, but it was the Twisted Sisters sock book that gave me an idea. And I've talked about these on the podcast, but I've never been in a position where I could show them. This is, and I'm checking to see if I put the weight on it, and I didn't. This is the very first spindle that I'd ever gotten, and I bought it in New York in 1987.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And I didn't know what I was doing.
Vintage.
It's hardcore vintageness, and it is heavy. It is quite heavy. And I put an arrow on it going the wrong direction because I didn't know what I was doing. So for people who want to try and spindle spin, I will show you how you can do it without spending a lot of money in a moment. But spinning is clockwise, so you would want to spin the shaft of it. You'd want to give it a twist clockwise so that your single ply all goes in a clockwise pattern, because when you ply it with another, I don't have an example. When you ply it with another one, both of them having been spun clockwise, you spin it the opposite direction, and it untwists the single plies just a little bit so that the two plies catch on to each other. I'm trying to do it with my hands and doing a bad job. They'll catch on to each other a little bit, and that's what helps the plies stay twisted around each other.
Right.
And the more regular your original spin is, the better your 2-ply or 3-ply, like you were talking about, will be. You can also hide a multitude of sins with plying.
Yes.
So if you're
we have some comments here.
Good.
That this was a perfect time for a dyeing conversation with Easter egg dyes coming.
Yes,
any moment. Right after Easter, they will be on clearance for next to nothing. And if you want to play with dyeing, buy them up.
Yes, that's right.
Because just like Kool Aid, they're food safe because they're meant for using on food.
Yep.
And they can be a lot of fun to play with.
Who left that comment?
Crooked Knits.
Cool.
And apparently AT has done some dyeing also. Does not spin, but has done dyeing.
Like sock blanks kind of things, or I wonder.
I don't know, but I'm sure we'll get a response momentarily letting us know.
We will find out.
So
the other thing about this is it's because it's heavy. The fiber that they gave me was kind of like Brillo pads. And so my initial spinning adventure was, I came out with yarn that was kind of, the thick and thin, which looks fine, but it wasn't particularly comfortable or pleasant to play with. And I liked the process of spinning a lot. I liked the kind of meditative quality of it, but I didn't like what I wound up with. And then I think it was this. These were called flying saucers, and now I can't remember who made it. I'm looking. This is really lightweight. This is like a 30 gram. It's tall. Here's my head. So it's, I don't know, what is that, about a foot tall? It's 10 inches tall, and it's surprisingly lightweight. And because it is lightweight, it means that I can get a single that's like thread.
Nice.
There it is up against my thumb, and you can see there's not a lot there. But the thing that I found out was that if you have grabby fiber, and I'll define that in a second. You can get away with making thin singles on a heavier spindle, like what Erica was showing you. That was incredible spinning on her part, because that was a fairly heavy spindle with fiber that didn't look like it was Brillo at all.
No.
What was I'm thinking? It's not Rambouillet that I'm thinking. It's because it's not Merino. It's the one that I like so much.
Polworth, Cordell.
Polworth or Romney? Not Romney. But yes, it is. I think, I think that's a crossbreed. Heck, it's all coming back to me. So this was a silk merino blend, and I was shocked that I was able to get something that thin. But I was telling you about the Twisted Sister sock book. I got a goofy little spindle from Soar. And I thought, I want to make socks. I just want to have a spinning project that will immediately become socks, kind of like the Twisted Sister sock book. So when I was at the 25th anniversary Soar, I got this. You can see it's even gotten matted because I've had it in the bag for so long. It was merino, and it's all sorts of goofy colors. There's kind of a russety orange and a purple and a little bit of turquoise in there. But where the orangey part and the turquoisey part meet, you get some really funky greens coming in, like the same kind of green that you get in the sunset when you get those really wonky sunsets.
Right.
So it's a fun color. And I knew that it wasn't going to ever spin into anything perfect, because I wasn't going to be able to match up the color changes. For anybody who hasn't spun before, there are times when you get roving that is so precise that if you split it all the way down the middle and wrap little balls and they're all going the same way, and you spin really carefully, you can actually get the color changes to line up on the plies so that
you have to be a good spinner to pull that off. I am not anywhere close to that level.
No, you have to be pretty consistent to do it. But I knew that I wasn't going to, and I wasn't going to try, so I wasn't going to sweat it. So I started using the kind of inexpensive spindle, which again was about 32 grams. Anything under 28 grams, you could probably get lace weight, like really lace weight yarn out of it. But I was just trying to get a decently thin single. I'm trying to get the thing to focus. Maybe if I get out of the way. So there's the original. Oh, that's better.
And for anyone who doesn't spin, when we talk about plies, imagine a rope and the different strands in the rope that are twisted together to make the one rope. Each ply is a strand. So yarn, most yarn is multiple plies. Not all, Malabrigo and Lopi and stuff, but it affects not just the fatness of the yarn, but also how round the yarn is, and things like that. Whether it's 2 or 3.
If you're going to do something that has cable patterning in it, or if it's going to have any kind of a pattern that you want to pop, they will steer you towards a specific kind of plied yarn or unplied yarn, because you need the 3-dimensionality of it, or
right.
Not. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at that winter's, maybe it was last week, the winter's shawl or something that had that incredible crochet work, or it was
the winter
crochet one. Yes. And that was one of those times when you would want a yarn that would be round enough to hold up
nice round
stuff.
Yeah.
So
so AT responded to the question. She said she's dyed mostly quilting fabrics and some clothes. Cricket Knits has dyed fabrics with good old fashioned RIT dyes.
Yep.
And AT had took a batiking class. and which is a lot of fun and messy. You have to have a pot you don't mind sacrificing because you got to boil the wax off the fabric. And Crooked Knits did batik on paper. Interesting. Ooh. In high school. I'm not sure how you would get the wax off the paper. Just pick it off after it's hardened or something.
Iron it out.
Okay.
We used to do stuff.
Yeah, because you're certainly not going to boil paper. That would not work too well. So,
what dye did AT say she dyed fabric with? Because you couldn't use an acid dye.
Sure, you can. It depends on the
fabric.
Well, it depends on the fiber content. So she said she used Dharma's acid dye. So I would imagine that it was an animal fiber,
not cotton.
Right. Or animal fiber or silk, because silk is the universal. You can do it with either the animal fiber dyes or the plant fiber dyes.
Which is such useful information that I wish I'd had when I was younger, because the RIT dyes that Crooked Knits was talking about with doing the fabric dyes. My understanding was that RIT works as a multi-use dye because it has both acid dye in it and what's the other one? Protein dye? I can't remember what it is that you use for cotton. And which is why when you rinse out something with RIT, all sorts of color comes out and you start to panic thinking that you screwed up, and you didn't. It's the other half of the dye that didn't take, which is also why when you're dyeing something like wool with an acid dye, if you get color washing out at the end, something did go wrong. Because you want the fiber to soak up all of the color pretty much until your water runs clear, which is kind of nice. I liked that about dyeing the wool, was being able to
unless like me, you use 3 times too much dye, and it's just not possible for it to all soak in. And AT corrected herself because she was dyeing 100% cotton, that she used Procyon dyes, not acid dyes.
I was worried. Yes, and I've used those, and they work pretty much the same way that the acid dyes do. I like the Dharma ones; they're good.
Yeah, and I have 2, but I don't have the setup for that. I do at home. I dye only the animal fibers, not the plant fibers. Animal fibers and silk, except I do a little bit of. No, I take that back. No, I pretty much only do animal fibers and silk at home.
Yeah,
I did do a little bit of natural dyeing. Only things that have the tannin naturally in them, like tea and turmeric. And I'm having a brain fart on the other one. Oh, annatto seeds. Those you don't need to add the extra chemicals, so those I can do at home. So that's pretty limited. I don't do indigo at home or any of the other really cool stuff.
We went to a store in Tucson where they had a pot of indigo out, and it was one of those, come in and buy a $15 silk shawl, and then they'd let you dye whatever you wanted to dye with it. And I found the indigo dyeing process to be so fascinating. They had indigo and cochineal or cochineal. Cochineal. They had vats of both of them, and it was really interesting to watch all the different things that people came up with. But I was so surprised at how red the cochineal was. It was.
Oh, it's great. Yes, squished bugs. Yes.
Yes, I know. Bug shells. Yay! So this is the sock that came off literally. I have 2 spindles going. So I have 2 spindles spinning the same fiber. And then I have a 3rd spindle that I do the ply on. And I'll see if I can get this to focus on the ply, because you can see that there is no, this side's better. There's no regularity in the final product of the yarn. It's just that kind of marled, whatever it's going to be. And And then for the sock, the thing that surprised me was there really are fairly regular color changes, that the dye pot, whatever it was that they did, was fairly dominant, or their repeats were long enough that the even with the marledness of it in places like, let me see if I can get this to focus better. Even though there are sections where it's still very much kind of speckly, the overall effect is that there are stripes. They're just kind of wide and soft. And so you'll see I'm down to the toe, and I've been on the toe for a while. And it's just because I only knit on it when I have some yarn that I've finished. So I just kind of keep going in rotation, and sometimes it's all on the spindle and sometimes it's all in a ball, and it's been one of those really relaxing things. But I find, like what you were saying, Erica, that the spinning isn't something, with spindle spinning isn't something that I can sit down and do. There are people I know who can. I am not among them. So I have to be feeling bouncy enough to be comfortable standing up for a long time. But I had to share, my mom did something really extraordinary. She was in Alaska, and she came back with a very pretty bag.
It's a kiviot.
So let's see if you can see how fine this is. Maybe I can show you a comparison between that and, let me see. All right, so that's really good merino. And that's the kiviot. Let's see if I can get it to focus on. Oh, actually, yes, I can. I don't know if it comes across as well, but that is like ridiculously thin fiber. Oh, there, excellent. And it's short fiber. And that's the scary part, because when it's short fiber, it's like spinning cotton, and you have to have a special tool like this. Normally, when you spin cotton, you need to have a spindle that is small and lightweight. Putting it up against my head again. It's probably 6.5, 8 inches total. And then there's a little bowl that comes along with it, and the spindle has a pointy bottom.
Oh, it's a supported spindle.
It's a supported spindle, and this is a tiny little one, and this is what you use in place of a charka. And I thought next week when we have Dawn, I'll pull out my little charka, because I still have it, which is a box. It's a portable box cotton spinning wheel, like the ones that Gandhi used to use, only more portable in some ways. But that's cotton. And the reason that I'm able to spin the kiviot, which is what, musk ox undercoat or something,
which is only harvested once a year,
or off the fences. People go behind them and just pull the fluff off the fences. But yeah,
that's why it's so expensive.
It's
only like once a year, but it's so soft.
It's so crazy soft, and that is a crazy thin piece of yarn. I'm wondering if I put it up against there. That shows it. It's thread. It is really thread, and the amount that I've spun on that spindle, I could do 3 inches of a lace scarf, 6 inches, 8 inches wide. That's a ridiculous amount of spinning. And this spindle is 23 ounces, I think. And
you mean grams?
Grams, sorry. Oh my God, yes, grams, not ounces. And it spins up really easily, because unlike cotton, there is just enough animal fiberiness to the kiviot that it has the little barbs on the sides of the hair shaft that it'll catch on itself. Not a lot. That's why it's so soft and so nice to put on your neck, but just enough. So that is actually really fun to spin. I love that. It is my guilty pleasure, and it's a lot different from spinning on the big honkin' spindle. And this is the one. Oh, I just saw.
Ooh.
Hand
Yeah. I was just gonna say, check your email from AT with a photo of hand dyed items. Perhaps you can do. Can you do the screen share?
Yeah, I can.
For those of us watching.
Let me pull it.
Which I need to figure out how to do the screen share.
It's weird.
That is a cute spindle with the little swirly whirly painted on the wall.
So this was actually a spindle that I made, and it's Sculpey.
Oh, which is clay.
Which is just cooking.
It's like Fimo.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And that hook, I don't know why I can't get this to focus. Maybe that way? No. Oh, someday I'll figure it out. Oh, there. Whee! So that hook at the top, I learned how to do that from a tutorial. And it's a regular cup hook, and you grasp the base of it where the twisty part is with one pair of pliers, and then you take the hooky part where you would hang it up if it were your cup hook, and you pull it up so that the part that is the hook end is horizontal to the floor instead of in line with the screw shaft. And it gives you this top bit that will let you hold your yarn on a true dead hang. Because otherwise what happens if you don't do this on a homemade spindle, if you don't do that kind of manipulation to the hook actually pushes the yarn to the side and you can't get a true spin out of it. She said, having learned the hard way. So even though the whirl on this is clearly not perfect, it's kind of a little bit, a little fatter on one edge than it is on the other. I can get a good spin out of this, and it's 7 inches of 1/4 inch dowel. And then I did a hole in the top with a Dremel, put the cup hook in, and then took a biscuit cutter to Sculpey that I had rolled out, and then drilled a Dremel hole in the middle. And I used kind of a rubberized glue. I can't remember which brand. It may have been the E6000 kind of glue back then. And put the whirl onto the shaft and then put the glue on so I didn't have to drag anything over too much. And that was it. So I think all told, this probably cost, I don't know, $5 total.
Nice.
Which includes buying a set of 6 cup hooks. So yeah, that was fun. And people talk all the time about making a CD, homemade CD spindles. Those were all the rage for a while. Right. And there are
I've seen
thousands of tutorials. Yeah. And
they're all over the internet. Yeah.
I find that they're really hard to learn to spin with because they are de facto very heavy. But there's one place where they are very useful, and it's this. Plying. I have this one monster spindle, which is crazy heavy and has the most marvelous and unique top. Again, it does this weird thing where it's got a halfway through the top of the shaft, there's a cut made down about 1.5 inches. And then there's that, whatever it is, the angle that you'd put on a whistle or a flute or something so that you get air coming out of it. And it just goes across half of it at a perpendicular angle to the slot. And that means that when you've got yarn coming up.
So it's instead of a hook.
It's instead of a hook, and it allows you to get, again, that dead hang where it's coming straight down from the center. I had this shaft break on me. The whirl was still alive, but I came back from sore, and somehow my original shaft broke in my suitcase, and I was in tears because this was the original of this. It was an antique that I'd found at New York Sheep and Wool in one of the antique stalls, and I found a guy online in Texas who was a woodworker, and I sent him a sketch because it was shattered. I mean, there was no way I could have reconstructed it or glued it back together. I sent him a sketch and said, this is what I need and this is why. And he sent me back the shaft. So this sucker is pretty heavy, but this is what I use for plying because it'll spin forever. So I can do all of the plying off of, 2 normal size spindles. I can do it in 5 minutes just because I have a good dead spin and heavy whirl. And a CD would work for that too. You could get, if you made a CD spindle, that's when it would really come in handy, I think.
And I will say, for if anybody is feeling frisky, wanting to try, saying, oh, all the spinning talk is making me want to spin, let me just tell you, from my newbie mistake, when you do spin, if you're teaching yourself, spin the shaft of the spindle, don't spin the hook.
Yes.
You'll give yourself problems if you spin the hook. The hook will come out or it will go in too far and you'll split your shaft. I have had both those happen. So don't spin the hook, spin the shaft.
That is really, really good advice. And in fact, let's see if I can do a demonstration. I just spun that too much. So when we were talking about getting a good dead hang and a spin, a true spin, so that there wasn't any wobble to the thing, I'll show you why. This has a very weird
dead hang, not to be confused with dead pool.
Right. Well, although if Ryan Reynolds wanted to come over and spindle with me, I would not kick him out. He's a talented guy. He could spin. So spinning from the shaft, like Erica was talking about, you give it a twist clockwise and you can see, actually maybe up against my black shirt, it'll show better. You pinch at the bottom where your thread ends and see it only just starts to wobble there. And I'm pulling down a section, but when I let go of my bottom hand, the twist jumps up and now it won't fall out because the fiber is not loose anymore. Then I pinch and I pull down another section and I dropped it, which is why it's called a drop spindle.
Yes. And this is also a good demonstration for homeschoolers on kinetic energy.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. And as well as the physics of why you would want it to have the hole in the middle of the shaft. There's a lot you can learn about science from spinning.
Yes. Yes. And there was more discussion of dyeing and using, there's also a way to use old silk ties to dye your Easter eggs.
What? More information, please.
And I'll look up the link. I learned how to do it from Wendy Bernard's blog, knitandtonic.net. And I did that one year. It was a lot of fun. You buy some old ties at thrift shop. They have to be silk, and you can do that. And then also AT has done it where you use the old ties to transfer dye onto silk scarves.
Ooh.
And she found the instructions for that. AT, please email those to Heather so that she can link that in the show notes. Because that would be the kind of thing you can do at home.
That's very cool. I needed to go find her other link so I can share it with everybody. It does.
Oh, and she said she did email the instructions to you.
Okay, good.
So
I'll see if I can.
And while we have dead air here, as Heather is looking, I will do a proud mom moment and show off somebody else's crafting. This is a very early Mother's Day gift I got. My oldest kid is in beginning wood shop and made me this shelf. It's a shelf you would hang on the wall. It's got the flat shelfy part, and then two support arms underneath it, and then below it a piece that has hooks on it so you could hang I don't know, hats or scarves or whatever from it. But in the center of the part that is against the wall is a heart that's been carved out. She had to use a jigsaw to cut out this heart, and it's stained with some orangey reddish stain. And you know, it's not fancy, but for beginning woodshop, hey, it warms a mother's heart, I'm telling you. So so anyway, that's my sharing somebody else's crafting. Did you find the stuff you're looking for? Oh, your voice went away again. So Heather, your voice is gone. I will attempt to, well, I don't know if I can do this justice describing it, but these are, it's a collage of a bunch of rectangular pictures of fabric that AT dyed, hand dyed with, looks like some tie-dye type, shibori type methods. Some of them multicolored, some of them single colored. And then there's one that looks, it looks painted with bright primary colors in streaks, kind of like, makes me think of melted crayons. But Heather, we need your voice back. You are gone. People who are listening on the live feed, can you hear Heather, or is it just me? My thing is working, and AT can't hear you either. And AT says, for those listening at home, that the streaky colors were achieved by ketchup squeeze bottles, with the piece of fabric hanging, and use the ketchup squeeze bottles, I guess, squeezing the dye at the top of the piece of fabric and letting it run down, like letting gravity do half of the work for you. So that would be fun. You would definitely need a tarp on the floor, or need to do it outside someplace you don't care to do that. So she said it was good outdoor fun. And let's see, how else? I would make a lousy radio DJ. So you're trying to fill this dead air. I'm sure this will all get edited out. I would sing for you, but I like you all too much to do that. If anybody is local to me and wants something fun to do this Thursday night, Friday night, or Saturday night, my kids' high school is doing Little Shop of Horrors at 7 o'clock on all those nights. It should be good fun. My kid is one of the stage managers. They've worked really hard on this. So if anybody is local to me and is interested, PM me and ping me, and I'll get you the information on where and how much it costs. But it should be a lot of fun. A bunch of wacky high school kids doing Little Shop of Horrors. So yeah, Heather, we're still not hearing you. We don't know. Hands up in the air, but not like she just don't care. So we may have to call this one, because we've lost Heather. And we are nothing without Heather. We are nothing without her. So the last piece is, if anybody is wondering what this is I'm wearing, it is, if I can do this with my headphones on, which Yeah, right. A Mobius getting caught in the headphones. It's sport weight, good old Cascade 220 sport weight in, I believe, Christmas red. It's a garter stitch Mobius, really big. And I was trying out some different stitch patterns that I wanted to use on something. This is basically a swatch, and it's got hearts. I don't know. Can you see the upside down heart? I can kind of see it there. And it's got little florets. Little florets. And some goofy diamonds that didn't quite work. But it's nice, screaming loud red that I love. So here in the Bay Area, where we wear cowls a lot more than we wear sweaters. And AT says it's neato. Being appropriate for Mobius. And I do love the whole twisty aspect of Mobius. This will eventually be a lace weight cowl, but I got stalled on it when I found a mistake 30 rounds down from where I was, and I was not going to tink 30 rounds of Mobius lace weight. So I ended up pulling the needles out, attaching the end to the ball winder, and undoing the whole 700 yards of lace weight. It made me cry. It sat in timeout for several months before I did that. So I have a fresh ball of lace weight yarn I'm going to start over with. But that's in a silk and merino blend. It will be very yummy when it is done, when I get back to it. So on that note, with Heather being silent, but nodding her head, and both of us wishing we knew sign language more than just, yes and no and thank you and sorry, we will say farewell to the Crafty Chat, and thank you to those who played along in the chat room, and we will see you next week. This will all get edited down and added to Friday's episode 409. And we will talk to you later. Keep crafting on with your bad self.